Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about anxiety and how we can help as educators help our students who may have anxiety in certain subject about school or just being dropped off at school in general. I can remember having anxiety every single day of every single grade when it came to having to do math. I am a math phobe. I always have been, and I fear that I'm always going to be. Math and I just don't get along, and I always had really bad anxiety about having to do math tests or having to do math problems in front of the class. And so for me, that kind of ties into self-efficacy because I felt that I had no self-worth when it came to math. I felt that I was just completely useless. The one time that I didn't have anxiety when it came to math was actually in my first round of college classes. I had a professor who taught the different steps of the algebraic equations in different colors. So step 1 was red, step 2 was green, and so on and so forth. And for me, that made sense and kind of eased my anxiety because I'm an artist, so I like to draw, I like to paint, and so colors to me make sense. And I feel that by that professor taking the time to find a way that would make sense to all of us kind of eased everybody's anxiety. And so I feel that if teachers take the time to really get to know their students, they can find out what makes them tick, what makes them upset, what, overstimulates them, or where they're not being stimulated enough. And then we can help ease their anxiety by giving them clear instructions saying this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, and so on and so forth. And we can also help ease their anxiety by celebrating little victories, like if they spell the word right without having to look back at the book, or if they solve the math problem right on the first try. We can celebrate those little victories, and that will help bring up their self-worth, it helps their self-efficacy, and it will ease their anxiety that they have about schooling. Or if you have a kiddo who is really nervous about being dropped off at school because, hey, mom might not come back to get me, you can take that child and mom and show them your daily schedule and say, this is what happens at this time, this is what happens at this time, and at this time in the day, this is when mom will come back to come and get you. And for the first little bit of that student being in your class, you could maybe set it up to where mom can come and see them at lunch and show that, hey, mom's still around, mom's still going to come and see you. So now it's lunchtime, so you have this many hours until I will be back to come and get you. By doing little things like that, we can help with their anxiety, and by helping with their anxiety, we can help increase their learning because then they'll feel better and they'll know what to expect if we set clear expectations and clear rules. And that, again, helps with their self-efficacy because then they'll feel better about themselves, and that boosts their self-esteem. And having a high self-esteem, especially in school when you feel that you're not good at something, means the world. Like to me, when that professor did math equations in different colors, I, for the first time ever, had a really good grade in math. And so for a little bit, I kind of liked math. And then I ended up going to a different math class, and that professor didn't do things that way. And so my anxiety level went up. And so I feel like in younger students, if you notice that something that you're doing with them is making connections and that they're doing good, you can pass it along to their next teacher and say, hey, this is what I did with this student and it seems to help. And then that way the student won't have so much anxiety in school, their grades will be better, they'll feel better about themselves, they'll feel better about wanting to go to school, and it will overall just be a really good experience for them. And teachers themselves need to try to keep their anxiety in check so that their students don't see their teacher like freaking out at their desk when they're grading papers, because they're going to see a teacher being all squirrely and freaking out and going, okay, well, if she doesn't want to be here and if she's upset about something, why am I here? And so we kind of need to set examples for our students, even though it's really hard sometimes to hold in that anxiety. I mean, I struggle with that every day with some of my kiddos that I work with. So I try really hard to practice what I preach when I tell them, use your coping skills. Take a deep breath, count to 10. I have to remember to check myself and remember to do that as well. And so if teachers can, practice what they preach and set an example for their students, then their anxiety won't be as high and they will feel more comfortable being in class, more comfortable doing their math lessons, or more comfortable with mom leaving them for, a few hours while they're at preschool. And I think it's really important that we keep kids' mental health in check, and anxiety is a big part of mental health, and if we can help with their mental health, then we can help with their educational health as well, and then they'll want to continue learning and they'll want to continue growing and wanting to learn new skills. So keeping anxiety in check and setting clear examples, having clear expectations, celebrating little victories are all ways that we can promote lowering anxiety for students in school.